In this video, I'll show you how to use pivot tables and filters to organize your data in order to calculate the relative frequency assessment. So here we have homework problem 4.1.23, and you'll want to open up the data by clicking on the blue icon here, and it brings up the sample of 150 breakdowns by plant and problem type, and then click on the little blue square here and open in Excel. Once you've clicked that, it will download onto your computer and you'll want to open up the file. So I have the file open and ready to go here. So you can see there's the plant information and the problem type information, and they're all kind of mixed up. So I'm going to show you two ways to do this. The first way, and the fastest, is by pivot tables. We just learned about that this week. So I'm going to click on anywhere in the data set and click on Insert up at the top, and then Pivot Table. It's the very first icon. It's that important. It's the first one. So it will select everything automatically, and you can double check by looking at the range. Like, yep, everything in column A1 through B and down to row 151. That sounds right, because we've got 150 breakdowns in our data set. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. And then you can see here is our pivot table. I'm going to go ahead and take plant and drag and drop it down into the rows. And then so you can see there's Lincoln and Tyler. And then I'm going to take plant and drag and drop it into values, which is nice now because I didn't have to count line by line. Rather, it did all the counting for me. Now you see on the first question, it asks what's the probability a scooter was assembled at the Tyler plant. So the nice thing is with this Excel file, we know 98 were made at Tyler. And we'll take that number and divide it by the 150. So you can do that in Excel, or you can do it with a calculator. I'll take equals 98 divided by 150, and I get 0.6533. Note that the homework only wants us to go to 2 decimals, so I'll do 0.65. Now the next question says, what's the probability that a scooter breakdown was due to an electrical problem? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my pivot table. And now I'm interested in the problem and not the plant. So what I can do is I'm going to take the plant and remove it. Or you could have just unchecked it there, right? And now I'm going to take the problem and drag that down and drag problem over into values. Essentially, we want now the problem to get counted. Problem and count of problem here in the values. So now we can see that the electrical problems are what we want, and that's 68. So I'll go ahead and take my equals 68 divided by 150. And you might be asking, like, why 150? Again, that's the total of bikes that we have in our data set. So that's why we use 150. So I'll go ahead and hit enter, and that leaves me with 0.4533. So I'm going to round to 0.45. Okay, and then the last question, it asks, what's the probability that a scooter was assembled at Lincoln and had an electrical problem? So if I go back to my pivot table, I'm just clicking on it so it turns back on. We want to know the plant and the problem. So what I'll do is let's go ahead and take the plant and drag and drop that into my rows. And like, depending on where you hover, like I can put plant first or I can put plant second, and it just organizes my information for me. Let's see what the question was. Lincoln and electrical. So I can see under the electrical here, Lincoln had 22 electrical problems. So then I'll use my 22 and divide it by 150. So let's just go through that. 22 divided by 150 gives me 0.146. Now, if you don't like rounding in your head, you can always use under the Home tab where it has the number formatting, you can use these arrows and it will round for you. So then you don't have to think too hard. So I'll go ahead and enter my 0.15 and hit enter. And so that's how I would use a pivot table to do my counting for me, and then do a little bit of dividing to get that relative frequency. Note, pivot tables, you can organize them and play around and just whatever makes sense to you. And then if you prefer to use filters, if you go to your original data set, under data, you can turn on the filter, and then you can use that to sort like alphabetically, or filtering by checking and unchecking. Like if I wanted to know just Lincoln, I'll uncheck Tyler, and there's all my Lincolns. Or if I only wanted to know Tyler, I'd make sure to uncheck Lincoln and check Tyler. And then now I have all the Tyler ones. But then you might ask, well, okay, how are you going to do the count? Well, that's where I would have to carefully highlight all the Tylers, right? And then down in the bottom of Excel, it'll give me a count. So you can do it manually this way by playing around with the filters, checking and unchecking what you want or don't want, and then highlighting. Here, I'm just going to do just electrical problems, right? Then just highlighting the word electrical. This was in part B, as I recall. So you can see when highlighting can be kind of a pain, like if you scroll too fast or scroll too slow. And like you might, in this case, I just missed some, for instance. Let me try that again. Carefully highlight. Okay, got to the bottom. And there's my count of 68. So you can see pivot tables are more efficient, but sometimes folks are more comfortable with the filters. So do what's easiest for you. And if you've got questions, let me know.